Okay, so we are absolutely rolling. I want to take it back all the way back to how did you get in the journey of fitness? How did you get rolling with this? Where did you start? What did you do? Because like what you're doing at the moment is wacky ass shit, and I love it, and it's completely different. And I'm super excited to hear the journey and a couple stories along the way, man.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. A lot of times the assumption is that based on what I do on social media, that I've been a natural athlete. I was gifted, and I just have something that other people don't. And that's kind of the opposite. Anyone that knew me in grade school and high school, excuse me, I wasn't athletic at all. In fact, I was kind of like a punk or a rebel, kind of like I would mock the guys that lifted weights, or seemed to care too much about how they looked or whatever, mostly because I think I was jealous of them, if I look back at it honestly. I didn't want to play organized team sports because I was just this rogue individual. I wasn't a mean or bad person. I never physically injured anybody. I never stole or I wasn't a criminal, but I was just this lone wolf thing. And in high school, I didn't, few sports I tried to play, I went so recklessly into them, I'd end up getting injured. In football, I got injured bad enough that I required surgeries. Like I had to have stainless steel screws, put in my right shoulder. And that to this day, it's fine. But so my high school, even into college years, I didn't really start lifting weights until I actually left my first high school. And I went to another high school for individuals like me. And I was kind of an outsider there too, because a lot of these kids in Hawaii, they're a bunch of stoner surfer guys. And I was this I wanted to be in the military from a very young age, from like young. I was into guns and hiking and dogs and animals. And I just like being outdoors. So I was grooming myself and certainly by high school. And, in the 80s, we had Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, all of these, it was all special forces movies and, Stallone. So I guess I got caught up in all that stuff, and I was grooming myself to be a soldier. But I didn't start actually training that way until I was a couple years out of high school. I'd done some weightlifting in high school, but it wasn't really a big thing. I didn't really get into it until I was about maybe 19 or 20. I was just going to the gym. And I guess what really got me into it was I didn't think much of myself at the time. I had a pretty low self-concept. I guess I was probably moderately depressed, and I didn't feel like anything I did or was worth anything. So I just went into a gym one day, and I just got all this attention from the guys at the gym. And they just thought I had all this potential and everything. And so that was the first time I ever was accepted by a group of people. So that was where I started going. And I can't even say I really enjoyed lifting weights because it wasn't really at the time. I still didn't get it. It was just something to do because these guys were my friends at the time. But it caught on. I actually started to, I guess, develop. And then other people started acknowledging what I was doing. And for somebody who had my very low level of, self-concept, that was it was uplifting for me. And it also made me, I found that the better I felt about myself. And at the time it was based on the judgments of others, but I know you're not supposed to do that, or the books say you're not supposed to, but as some of them strangers were kind of literally pumping me up, I found it made me calmer and nicer and more settled, knowing that I'm not a loser. Well, not a total loser. It's not like lifting weights made me a winner, but it was the first time in my life that I got just organic positive feedback from people I didn't know without having to kiss their ass or get drunk with them. So yeah, I guess that's where it started, but it was kind of later. It was in my 20s that this thing really started to click. And I still didn't really like bodybuilding. It was weird. I would look at the bodybuilding magazines, like, and just look at those guys in there, but I never wanted to become one. Like, there was just nothing about that lifestyle that appealed to me. And to this day, it doesn't. But just at the level of development, and I was very naive as well. I think it was good because I was lifting for years and years, well into my 20s. I moved to Venice, California when I was 25. And it wasn't until that age that I realized that all of these guys I'd been watching in the movies and on the magazines and on television, or everyone, that they were on steroids. I mean, it sounds stupid. I mean, yeah, but I think a part of me didn't want to look into that because I really looked up to these Schwarzenegger and Vonda, all of them. And I didn't want to know. I don't think I wanted to know if they were on steroids. So, but when I finally went to the source, Venice, California, where at the time, this was the mid 90s, everyone was on steroids.
Yeah.
I was a trainer at Gold's Gym and Powerhouse Gym in Santa Monica. And people wanted to, like, I was training people. They're also working at a supplement store right next to Gold's Venice. And people, after I got to know them, would try to pay for their items at the store with steroids and pills and things. And, it's kind of funny. In high school, I would take almost any illicit drug. I could smoke tons of weed. I would take LSD, mushrooms, meth, pills. I didn't even know what these pills were. I'd take them just because everyone else was. But for some reason, performance-enhancing drugs, steroids and things, zero appeal. Then and now, I guess it's cool that I have what I have, and I'm very grateful. But having more of this, it really doesn't mean anywhere close. It's not important enough for me to go through the risk and the expense and the trouble of using steroids and trying to manipulate and balance those things the way people do. I'm 53 years old. I have 2 kids. I have 2 dogs. I have a wife. I don't make any money on social media. I mean, I might have a pretty nice following, and I'm grateful to every single person for helping me with that. But I think I make $40 on YouTube, give or take. I think you're not supposed to say exactly, but I'm not making money on social media, so it really wouldn't make sense for me to do all that. Anyway, going back to Venice, I got a few magazines. Back then we had Muscle and Fitness and Men's Fitness, and I got a few shoots there. And then from those, I guess some people in LA saw me, and they started asking me to just work in some movies. And I was working a lot in movies, but to this day, I don't consider myself an actor. I didn't have much acting ability. I was mostly hired for my appearance. And yeah, I did that for 5 years, and it was fun, but it's at this point, at that point, acting I was one of those people that just, it bit me and I'm not going to be an actor. It didn't. So the woman I'm married to now, name is Leslie. We moved back to Hawaii in 2000, and I started my training business here. And then I'm going to fast forward because after we moved back, I guess I fell into, without realizing it, I kind of fell not into a kind of depression, but it's kind of a nice depression. When you're in a place like Hawaii, in general, like it's a lot different now than it was 30 years ago. But even back then, you could be very laid back, and it's common for at least I don't know about other people, but it's very common to have the people your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, everyone, whatever they were doing at age 20, they're still doing that at age 60 or 70 and they retire with it. That's just at least what I experienced. And I fell right back into that. And literally for, I believe it's 18 years, we got a little studio. That's where I am now. And for 18 years, I did the exact same thing. I had a nice base of clients. My clients I get them through referral. I don't advertise. And I just started with one and then it grew into others. Now I have a nice base of people. Many of them I've seen for, gosh, some of them I've been training with for over 12 years. So I don't have a revolving door of clients, but the ones I do, they stick around, thankfully. And but for 18 years, and this is why I also think there's something kind of wrong with me, because most people like you would never, just from our short conversation, what I just said to you, that must sound nauseating. This room is 600 square feet and the view never changes. It's sunny and nice. But I realized after my dog that I brought in here as a puppy, after that dog died at 15 years old, I remember I was crying. That dog was like my baby. And I knew it, but it hit me. I was literally sitting kind of like under the desk and I'm crying because my dog is dying. And then it hits me that, I don't know why it hit, but in the midst of all my grief, it occurred to me that there's like a voice that said, "Oh, you've been doing the same shit from the day you brought this dog in here. Now you're going to bring this dog out dead and you haven't done a thing different." And that just kind of messed me up more. So for the next, I didn't tell you about the cancer, but anyway, let's back up a little bit because at age 43, so I was doing the same old thing here. At age 43, so 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. Now this is what's kind of crazy. For at least 2 years before I was diagnosed, I thought I had an ulcer. You know, my guts seemed to work fine. I just had this kind of thing that would come and go. And then after 2 years, it'd get to the point where I didn't realize it, but I would double over, but I would disguise it as squatting down to look at a client's feet to make sure that they're yeah. So I would but it didn't occur to me to and here's another thing. All the mistakes I'm going to discuss on this, anybody listening to this, I hope that they'll learn from my mistakes.
Yep.
Because I also was just steadfast. I would not see doctors. I'm one of those guys, I don't see the doctor. I don't get annual checkups for decades. I mean, just year after year. And mostly because I was cheap. I didn't want to insurance in America is a little here and there. And, but yeah, and lazy. I just didn't want to bother. I felt like I was pretty healthy. I felt like I had a pretty good, it was arrogance. I just thought, man, you know your shit. You don't need the doctor to tell you what's up. Until I was in the studio here one night. This is after probably 2.5 years of having constant abdominal pain. I had a client that was kicking an air shield because we practiced some kicks and punches here. And this guy is pretty strong, but every time he was kicking me, it felt like it felt like it was going right through the pad. And from that evening on, the next morning, I was still in pain. And that's really abnormal because I've gotten hit before. I've never had that. So we just went to the doctor, just went to urgent care. And they took an x-ray. And next thing I know, they're having me go upstairs into some other thing. They found cancer on the x-ray that was so apparent that the ER doctor accurately diagnosed what it was. Yeah, he said it's an apple core lesion. That's usually indicative of an advanced colon cancer. And so, yeah, that's when things changed. I went into surgery within a few days. They took out a foot of my colon. And then I went into and then they went into 6 months of chemotherapy. And it was a kind of chemotherapy where on Monday I'd go in for 3 hours. They'd pump me full of poison. And then I had to take a separate little pump in a belly pack that was hooked up to an IV in my arm, or a port in my shoulder, I should say. And that would pump drugs into me for 3 days. So from Monday through till Wednesday, this thing would just intermittently pump chemo into me. And every time it did that, you get this metallic taste in your mouth, and you just want to throw up on the spot. And it's going on all day long, and you could function. I could go to, I would work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then chemo was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Holy shit.
I did that for, yeah. But you know what though? The experience itself was not terrible, but what I was left with after that, sort of like when you're sick, you're the star of the show. You got these doctors and nurses, and everybody's kind of like, and so you're distracted from what's going on. But then when I was so-called cured, and then I had to go back to work, and by the time I actually got back really, oh yeah, CrossFit was in full swing by then. So my business was maintenance. I had some very loyal people that stayed with me just enough to keep me afloat. But when I returned to really, okay, I'm ready to do my thing again, CrossFit had just exploded here. And trainers, gyms, anybody, even yoga studios were losing tons of their people. So, but at the same time, I loved that CrossFit thing I got certified by CrossFit. I never became a CrossFit trainer. I never really advertised my place as a gym. I never got, affiliated. But it was a really great system. I've been following CrossFit before they got popular in the early 2000s. So, but yeah, so even though I really like them, and to this day I still do, man, their business model kicked my ass, and which was kind of good, because I couldn't handle a load of people anyway, and it forced me to kind of adapt to my room. Like normally before, there was like just about 6 feet behind me, there was a dividing wall, because this place was a surf store before, and we just kept that wall up because we were just lazy. But then I started looking at CrossFits, and they just had these big box gyms. So I just took that wall, just small thing, or that was a big thing for us. Anyway, but the CrossFit thing, coming back to that, was both good, and I thought it was bad, but it ended up bringing me to another level. And then we can fast forward to after that, the years following, nothing was the same. And that's kind of this kind of leads into what you see, or what people see on my social media. I felt relatively the same. The only thing I could do while I was on chemo, I didn't want to run, I didn't want to lift heavy, but kettlebell snatches just felt perfect. They didn't have, I didn't have to deep squat too much, yet they were tough and they'd get me breathing. And so I did tons of kettlebell snatches during my chemotherapy. And then following that, when I was coming back to the gym, I thought, okay, let's go for a run. And I went for a run, and the run didn't feel bad, but it took me like 5 days. It's like I ran up Everest. I was so sore. I'm like, okay, that's normal. And fast forward month, 2, 3 months later, I'm taking these same relatively conservative runs, and I'm not recovering. I'm constantly sore. I'm definitely not getting better. It was just, and then my weights, I started kind of, that just felt terrible. My weightlifting felt bad, and it's just a disaster. So I kind of just, I guess a year, probably around 2018, I kind of stopped training myself. And that was a dark period for me, because I was basically feeling like a total farce. And then I'm training people on how to stay on their program and why it's good to do that. But the whole time, I'm just going home and feeling sorry for myself, and just doing some half-assed crap that almost made me feel worse, because I knew it was half-assed crap. So yeah, and I was kind of spiraling. I remember Christmas of 2018, I was almost going to just tell my wife I'm not going to do this anymore. Then my mom passed away a little while after that, which is kind of sudden, and that kind of knocked me off course. But then the pandemic hit, 2020. We got the pandemic, and I feel what I'm about to say. Number one, I just want to pay respect to all the people who suffered during that and who continue to this day. I just want to acknowledge that was not, it was a terrible thing for humanity. And but for me personally, that in a way, and I'm going to guess other people might say similar, but I'm just speaking for myself, it kind of saved me, because I was trying to figure out how to bail, how to quit without looking like a failure or a loser. And when that occurred, and it became apparent within a few weeks how not just my business, but thousands of other businesses were in jeopardy on a level that was very real, and literally watching big companies, much bigger than me, have to close down, or watching their CEOs or what having to go to downgrade to much lesser positions. It, to me, was like, dude, now, and this sounds terrible, and I was thinking, man, now I can be a waiter, or I can be, and nothing, I have great respect for that profession. It's not, but it was, for me, anything that's not training, that is a huge step outside of, so I'm not saying I'm stepping down a training. I could be an attorney that would be equally uncomfortable for me. That's why I said I admire your mindset of never wanting to stay in the same place, experiencing different cultures, different ethnicities, because that was not, even to relatively recently, I'm kind of I'm not like that. So that's why I said I really admire that you have that at such a young age.
Thank you.
So anyway, things were kind of, in a way, when that all happened, and now everybody, my clients, some of them have big businesses, very successful. We're all now the same. And in a way, it was a weird, kind of a reset button for me. I literally said, holy shit, all these people I felt jealous about, I'm not feeling that jealous of them now, as I'm watching them have to scramble for funds and funding and closing locations. And we all kind of became the same for a little while. And for me, that was a huge, because I've been terrified to go on social media. If I was barely confident enough to even look at my clients, and I know if any of them happen to listen to this, sorry, I'll give you a discount on your next sessions. But they knew I was, So it allowed me, when I had this sense that we're all, literally, not just me in Hawaii, but the whole world was kind of, we shared a commonality that was so profound and strange to me. I felt like, okay, maybe I'll do a YouTube video today. There was one day I was just feeling, what am I gonna do? Should I smoke a bowl, or should I do something? And I just said, because I went out in the yard and I did it was jump rope, and it was bad, but I put it on YouTube and nothing happened. And then I went out the next day and I think I did some push-ups and something. And then, I don't know, within a week, one of those videos, I don't know how, it took off. It got like 30,000 views in a day, which for my thing was big. That was huge. And I started getting some subscribers from that. And then things died off again. And I just went complete. But I kept doing, my thing was, I didn't even know anything about the social media and all this influencer stuff. I didn't even learn the word influencer until months into doing this. It was just my way of, I had a client that I was kind of asking, we were doing Zoom sessions during the pandemic, and he was really great about the sessions, but he wasn't doing the workouts. And I was saying, hey man, what does it take? What does it take for you to just get out there 2 days when we're not training and just go out and do your thing? He says, I tell you what, why don't you show me what you're doing at home? Why don't you put something up. I don't care, YouTube, Instagram, or whatever. I want to see what you're doing, hot shot. And I'm like, oh shit, because I wasn't doing. He busted me. So I'm like, all right, and that's why I went out and did, because those words were like, and plus I didn't have anything else to do, so I just went out in the yard, did that, posted on the media, and then I was posting month after month after month, and averaging 112 views per video, and that was okay, that was fine. It was literally the same 100 people were watching it, and then I didn't know what TikTok was. TikTok was definitely in existence when I started this, but I had no clue. But I just decided that watching one of my videos has got to be, because now that people were commenting and I knew a few people were watching, I was thinking, God, this must be boring. Because like literally, if I just went, poured myself water, I'd drink, then answer a phone call from my wife, that was all on the video. I mean, it's just 10 minutes, a lot of it crap. So I decided, let's be nice to these people. Let's just save them some time. I'm gonna clip out whatever best part of today's workout is. I'll still post the whole workout, but let's just put a little clip so they don't have to waste time looking through the whole damn thing in case there's something. And that's what, even not on TikTok, that model worked big time. Wow. And if there's anybody like, if there's a fitness influencer or any influencer, you've probably heard this already, but that TikTok platform for just the shorts, because I started doing shorts on YouTube before they even had shorts, I think, and those took off into the millions of views and grew my account to about 36,000 from just those things going viral. And then somebody in the comments said, oh, this should be on TikTok. And all I knew at the time, like all the old farts like me, was that TikTok was a Chinese spy app. And yeah, everything you do on your phone after you download it goes to the Chinese. And I was like, but people kept saying, hey man, this should be on TikTok. Why isn't this on? And finally I'm like, you know what? I don't have any money to steal. Who cares who I am? Let's just do this. So I went on TikTok. And that was in February of this year, I started TikTok. And then, God, just 2 weeks ago, we made 1 million.
Holy shit.
Followers. Yeah. And my production is super low. I'll just do whatever workout I'm doing. I'll clip out what I feel is a part people would like. I'll go to the TikTok music library and just find something that kind of matches. And I would just post that, and apparently it was well received. And then from there, my daughter said, "Hey, well, if you have Instagram is, TikTok is for kids. You should be putting your stuff on Instagram, which is for like people." I'm like, okay. And I would literally take, because when you do a TikTok, you get a copy of your video put in your photo gallery. So I would just take the same TikTok video. It was just 2 for 1. And when I started that was right April of this year. I started putting stuff on Instagram, and I think I was at 1,000, just over 1,000 followers there. But the TikTok videos, posting them to Instagram, that grew my account to just over 150,000 in a relatively short. And I am not spending a lot of time. Like, I would challenge any other creator to spend less time on their videos than I do. And for certain people that are out there thinking about this, I hope that is helpful to them, so they don't worry about having to do these produced, edited, all these cuts and jump cuts and B-roll and all that stuff they talk about. It doesn't have to be that way necessarily. Yeah. So, and anyway, so a lot of the stuff that people are seeing on the social media, some of these more esoteric or kind of more exotic looking movements, a lot of them literally evolved on that strip of concrete that I've been working out on for almost 2 years now. I've been doing this, but like there's this, what I call a pivot clean and press with a barbell. It's kind of a weird, it looks like a one-arm deadlift, but then it goes over my head and I'm now turning 90 degrees and it's over on the opposite shoulder, or on this shoulder. I'm a martial artist first and always. So all of my weight training, it has never been for muscle, for body build, to have like, even if getting ripped or whatever, I always felt that the training to be a fighter, in most cases, should just result in you getting ripped. Because I can't think of any athletes that have more, it's a bilateral sport. You can't just have a right hand, or, every limb has to be on it. And it's just, yeah, I felt like if I trained to fight, being lean or being cut or ripped or whatever, that's always been a byproduct. And so I try to make my lifts simulate either fighting, because in fighting, like 1 minute you're faced one direction, next thing weight is being applied to you, next thing you're turned in a different direction and you're having to drop low. So that had the appeal of that. But the main reason why I came up with that is I was trying to see if I could get a heavier over one-arm press. I have power block dumbbells, but they go up to 90 pounds. And I'm not a strong guy. In order for me to push 90-pound dumbbell overhead, I have to basically do a one-arm thruster and get all of that momentum. I cannot press even close to that. I'm not strict. But I was getting to the point where the 90-pound dumbbell was going okay. So I just needed something heavier without having to buy. And there was nothing to buy anyway during that time. So that's where I kind of came up with the bar. I'm thinking, how am I going to get this barbell that weighs whatever onto this shoulder? And I was thinking, what am I going to do? Like, yeah, everything I came up with was pretty ugly. And then I was just like, well, let's see if we can flip this thing. And that's, a lot of the orbit lunges. I'm obsessed with oblique development. The oblique musculature, well, even 20 years ago, I don't know why, but the obliques always seem like the most sensible thing for me to develop. To me, they connected the lower body and the upper body in the functional way. I've never cared about six-pack abs. I think the rectus abdominis and the bicep are about the same in their simplicity, and they're necessary, of course, but to me, it didn't take much skill to develop those muscles or to train them, because it's a pretty one-dimensional approach. And to me, I seen guys that had some six-pack, like these little, but they didn't have anything off to the side. They look like fat guys with six-pack abs. To me, the guys that look like panthers, they look like cats. They had these chiseled, like Bruce Lee and Stallone in Rocky 3 and Rocky 4. Mm-hmm. When I saw obliques, and I'd see Dolph Lundgren throwing this punch, and you could literally see how those things would pull that rib cage and just lock. I said, that is where power in the body comes from. I used to wonder, how come I could wrestle some guy who I outweighed by 30 or 40 pounds and was 4 to 6 inches tall and older, and this guy I couldn't move his arm. I couldn't. Turned out their obliques are so powerful. If a guy has strong obliques, mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how strong your arms and legs are, his obliques usually are going to win. And so to me, that was a key. Plus, they look cool and they weren't obvious. Like these extremities, quadriceps, hamstrings, all this stuff, it's meat. It looks like, but this looked like something like a combination of a brain and a muscle. And and so during the lockdown, I really had a lot of time to spend with myself out on that little walkway. where I'd film the videos. And so a lot of this stuff evolved from things I knew how to do here with clients, but I never really had a lot of time to think beyond them. And this gave me time to take concepts that were pretty simple at the time and expand on them more. And they all have to do with unilateral or offset loads, and either some challenge that's bending and or twisting the body. That's why there's very little bilateral exercise you'll see. In the beginning, there was more, but now I've always been of the belief that if I'm going overhead, especially with something heavy, locking myself between my shoulders, and my shoulders are not symmetrical because of the surgery, that never really felt good. And I also felt like the compressive load into the body was not distributed in a way that was sustainable to me. Whereas when I take a heavier load in one arm, I can place it on my obliques and on my torso and kind of support the load in a better way. So, but you might hear some what sound like disaster sirens going on. In Hawaii, on the first day of every month, test the civil defense sirens. So I don't know if you can hear that or not, but yeah, it freaks people out that just come here like on vacation. Yeah. And they're not told that on the first of every month, we fire all the civil defense sirens, like air raid sirens. And yeah, every time people visiting, they get a little bit shook up until we tell them, hey man, it's cool. Don't worry, this is normal.
Oh, so, we can't hear it, don't worry.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's kind of, and then from the social media thing now, you know, I was able to get in touch more with what I know, and without a doubt, the people that have been watching my videos and commenting and just just the engagement I've been getting from the world on my social medias. Anyone that would say that is not, it doesn't lift you up would be lying, because I went from a pretty low place. I was wondering, I told my wife, I said, you know what, I'm fucking useless, man. I'm making no difference in the world. I've been doing the same old shit for almost 20 years. I haven't produced a single employment opportunity. I was looking at everything. I was like, and I said, the only people I'm affecting are whatever handful of people I see in a day. And there's not much you can say to that, except, well, you know, what your wife would say, like, oh, it's fine, honey. Your clients love you. You know, but I'm like, okay, fine, I'm still a fucking loser. So, but then, you know, when I started getting some interaction from people on YouTube and then Instagram, all these, TikTok, and then getting DMs and things, and people, you know, kind of validating in a way what I was doing there and finding some value and hopefully getting value from this whole thing. That's what I want to do. Right now, I'm very all over the place. I'm not organized. Whatever is my workout, that's what I'm putting on. And I know it's a little annoying to some of these people because I'm not like I seem to be showing them something, but I'm not really putting it together for them, you know, sort of like I'm giving them a sample, but they can't really eat. So I'm currently right now, I just reconfigured my office yesterday. There's a couple of apps that have asked me to do longer form tutorials for them, which I will be doing. I started yesterday, and I'm gonna start bringing this material to these apps. And it is paid content, but apparently it's pretty affordable. I think to subscribe to one of these things like $10 a month, and I think I get $8 and they get $2. So, you know, but I was just really happy that, you know, people did find or they derived value from these things I was putting out there. And, you know, I love it when people say, hey man, I hope it's okay, but I'm a trainer and I think I'm going to steal that stuff you just put on. I tell them that's public domain, man. I mean, yeah, who's putting things on? And they were kind of joking. I know they were joking, but they're saying, hey man, they're kind of joking, but kind of not. I said, no, man, if it's there, if you have questions about it, or if your clients have questions about it, I certainly wouldn't want you getting hurt trying to do any of these things. Please let me know. And then I'm hoping with these tutorials to maybe answer those questions. And I'll be putting a lot of this stuff on free content as well. Because like I said, I didn't enter this thing to become an influencer or to make money or whatever. And to this day, I'm not making money on this stuff. And I guess my biggest concern is that doesn't concern me. And I think I feel if I just organically kind of I try to give what I feel like the other day, I just took a hike or a run up in the mountains. Nobody wants to watch the whole thing of that, but I just thought it was beautiful up there. So I thought, hey man, maybe I just took a little selfie video. I said, hey man, I'm going to run down this trail and check it out. I hope you think it's pretty like I do. And a lot of people said, man, that was beautiful. I wish I could have gone that whole, because I did turn it around and I ran them like 10 seconds down the trail. And a few guys were like, hey man, what'd you turn that off for? I wanted to go the whole thing with you. My battery was low. But yeah, so the feedback I've got, basically the world has kind of brought me back, man. I was just feeling, I was in this little, what we call a puka in Hawaii. That means a small or a hole. And I was just coming here and I love my clients. I give them my heart and my soul. But once I go home, I'm like, wow. And I watch other people on television, TikTok, talking about all the difference they made in the world, or, they're doctors and I don't know, soldiers, they're just doing stuff, firefighters. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? So this is kind of my opportunity to, I guess, if people want it, I'm happy to. Another thing is, this sounds a little weird. I'm not what they call a fatalist, but because of what I had, my chances of getting recurring cancer are much, much higher, of course, than the average person. I'm no longer able to get any more CAT scans. I went well over my limit of radiation for one lifetime. So based on that alone, I'm at risk for cancer from radiation from CAT scans. Also, chemotherapy drugs, almost all of them, especially when they're pumped in you for 6 months continuously, they have secondary cancer risk as well. So between having just cancer in my genetics and then, radiation and chemo, the chances of me getting sick or dying early are quite high. So that's why, and I don't know that I don't run around like that. Oh, I'm gonna die. So no, I'm relaxed. I'm cool. I enjoy life, but I don't take as much for granted. And I kind of wanna. If there's a saying that I heard, I think it was from Wayne Dyer, one of those motivational guys. Don't die with your song still in you. Yeah, and yeah, that I at first. I've read a lot of books, self-help books, and I need a lot of self-help. And that phrase, I don't recall really making note of it. And then all of a sudden, a few months ago, it just popped up. Don't die. Yeah, I'm not thinking, oh shit, I hope that's not like the universe telling me something. But and that goes into, I'm sorry, I'm a little ADD, so I'm gonna go in a different direction real quick, because I get a lot of comments, especially, I'm guessing young people. I get comments from young people and apparently people that admit they're around my age. But what those comments have in common is these people say, man, you're the GOAT, you're the shit. I would give anything to look like you, or I want to be like you, or when I get older, I hope I could be half of what you are. And people wishing that they were kind of me or had my situation. And, I just, and I'm very flattered, and I don't want to like give them some sermon on, but it goes without saying, in order to have what a guy has, you have to be willing to take everything he took to get to there. And I remind these people, hey, things are never as they seem, man. I mean, yeah, you might think I got this body and I'm older guy and and I look young or whatever, but if you knew what I have hanging over my head, I don't say this in a negative or sad way, but I will be shocked if I make it to 70 based on my wrist. And and yeah, also, you know, I have I'm messy. I'm not, everyone thinks I'm like some Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of guy. You should see I'm a total slob. Okay, my car, my car is a 2007 CRV. I don't even wash the thing. Half the paint on the roof is gone. The only reason why I can't tell is the car is silver, so it doesn't show up. Yeah, but I just want people, anyone listening to this that thinks they want to be me or somebody else for that matter, probably not. There's been plenty times where I wish, like, who didn't wish they were Anthony Bourdain, and with all respect to him and his family, or saying Robin Williams. When I was a little kid, Mork and Mindy and Robin Williams was just, everyone, at least not literally, but he was a great guy. Who would ever imagine, right? Those guys. And they were the top of their game. And, you know, so yeah, it's just always never wish you're somebody else, because for whatever reason, you're you for a reason.
Yep.
And that might, and it won't, I always tell my daughters this, just because it doesn't happen on your timeline doesn't mean it's not relevant or real. Because, you know, you always tell your kids, hey, in a few years, you're going to understand what I mean. I can't wait. Well, sorry. But yeah, that's another thing as far as getting more mature is knowing things aren't going to arrive when you want them to, and just being cool with that. Because I was a king of not being cool about it. If I wanted something when I was young, I wanted it now, and I'd bang my fist like a baby in a high chair if I didn't get it. So I've learned to temper that a little, and you know. But yeah, I just want people to understand that I'm my best out there. I'm truly not better than anyone else. Literally, most people, I guarantee you, every person that says they wish they were me, if I were to meet them, I know for a fact there's something about them that I would want. It would, regardless of their age. It might be just like with you. If I've always, like, what you really, when you said you're 25 and you have this wanderlust, is the word you used, that was so not me. I was just this total scared 25-year-old guy. I remember the first time I entered the freeway, when I moved to LA, I was about 25, I was 24. And just getting on the freeway terrified me. Like someone like you, you'd be, all right, this is this LA freeways. Let's see what this is. Yeah, you look at it like as a, you know, NASCAR race. Me, I was driving headlong into death. In fact, they have metered lights. You know, it goes red, green, you go. I didn't understand that is one car per light, because the way I was taught to drive, when the light is green, everyone goes until it turns red. And so for the first few weeks in LA, I was wondering, why are people honking me every time I enter this damn freeway? I'm cool. I'm going on the green light. Why did the people behind me honk me? And then the people on, and I was driving with a friend one day and I did that. She said, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, what? It's green. She said, and oh shit. Yeah, so anyway, that was me at your age trying to live out in the world. So yeah, it's been a process for me. And yeah, whatever I might make look easy on my videos, literally that might be the 6th attempt at that. And then I go in. My workouts to this day are not that long. Alex, I think, oh, okay, good. Yeah, our screen froze for a moment, so I wasn't sure you could hear me or not.
Oh, I'm still there, brother. I'm just listening, man. I'm honestly, like, throughout all those little stories that you just laced in, right? Like, one word comes to my mind is just like authenticity. Of like throughout the whole thing, you just authentic. And I think that's why people gravitate towards you. That's why people are stuck around in the business. That's why people want to watch you, what you're doing, whether it's on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever the fuck it is, whether it's like, oh, I want to have a go with that. Why? Because people can feel that you're a genuinely authentic person rather than like just this person that's going to try and bullshit them.
I appreciate that. And when I was younger, like I said, I was never like a criminal or a bad guy, but because I was I had such low self-esteem, I was definitely not above lying about what I could do.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back, I was like in high school, all the guys are talking about, and this is common, all the pussies they get, oh yeah, man, I banged her. And then they're like, oh, so what, Bill, how's your Saturday? I'm like, yeah, I got some. Well, got some what? Hand? I'm like, yeah, I got some, man. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
But I was bullshit. They could tell. And every time, I wasn't a very good liar. And I always felt like, I mean, you got to do that a few times in order to realize what a loser you feel like.
Yep.
And if you don't feel like a loser after that, then you might have a slightly bigger problem than I did. Mm-hmm. Because you should. And that was just a totally horrible. And I tried that for a short time. It didn't work. So but then I just had to go to, okay, well, then I'm just a loser. And I don't want to lie about it. So I'm just going to be quiet and depressed and hide. And that's what I did for a little while. And at the same time, my family life is kind of how I would really define my life. So even though my career life wasn't what I wanted it to be, I was nowhere near like suicide or anything, because my wife and my kids and my brother, my dad, and my in-laws, that's what I really, I guess, live for, is that, is those guys. And, in Hawaii, it's Hawaii. Because we're an island, there's this thing where, everyone in Hawaii is super nice to each other. We call it the aloha spirit. Literally they call it this. Yeah, and people take it seriously here. It's not like one of those tourist things. That's all aloha spirit in Hawaii. No, that it means like literally, you'll see one guy kind of maybe pull in front of another guy in a parking spot. It's not uncommon to see a third person who witnessed that politely knock on the window of the person and say, "Hey, bro, where's your aloha? You didn't see that auntie waiting for the car over there? Come on." And I've seen this. And I see the guy go, "Okay, bro," and he just puts it in reverse, backs out, no fighting, no fuck you, bro. And then the guy turns around, waves to the auntie, says, "Hey, so sorry," drives away. And that is not really uncommon. Yeah, we have our share of assholes and dicks and not nice people, but in general, yeah, we're a small community. But a little funny thing about the aloha spirit thing, this other guy who's kind of a comedian, I saw him, he said, "Hey, how many of you guys like," and we have an accent here we call pidgin, but hey, how many of you guys live aloha spirit? You guys go around aloha every day, right? So how many of you guys do that? And everyone's like, he says, "How many of you guys realize that the real reason why you do that is because if you make shit with anybody here, within 2 to 3 people, you both are gonna know somebody, the same person, right?" There's wasn't there a movie called 7 or 8 Degrees of Separation? It was about relationships, how there are 7 people, like anyone there are 7 people between you and you guys knowing all each other. So according to that movie, maybe I should have watched it, not okay, anyway. But in Hawaii, there's literally 2.5 degrees of separation. If you make a problem with someone here, if you get in a fight with someone here, it's almost certain within a small number of people, you guys will have common friends or even relatives. Holy shit. For that reason, yeah, and I'll guess other places that have small populations hopefully treat each other similarly. It's not just because we're all filled with aloha. People are people, and people are people no matter where you go, right? Yeah, but I guess the politics here are in general like that. So yeah, my family is number one. And even to the point where like literally this week, the social media thing, I've been getting some DMs and some, I guess, correspondence from various interests on this thing I'm doing. And I got a little caught up with it. I've hired 2 people to help me with this because I was spending all of my evenings and my afternoons where I could be with my kids and having dinner with answering this and doing that and trying to and being really snappy and kind of upset at people trying to interfere with me. And I realized I was just getting caught up. So this week, I'm just gonna kind of practice not giving a fuck about this thing. And I might post some here and there stuff, but just for a week, I just want to say, hey man, I'm gonna let that thing sit there and just kind of cruise. And if I put something on, it'll hopefully be funner. And just not making this social media thing such a big deal. I had a young kid. He said, hey, uncle, I'm 15. What's the best advice you can give me for my life? And it just occurred to me. I wrote, stop watching TikTok. And this was on TikTok. And then I followed up with kidding, ... but kind of not kidding. If you like what you see me doing, go outside and do your version of it now.
Yeah.
Because 100%. Yeah. I said, now how that will fix you for the rest of your life, I don't know, but I would imagine it'll get you farther than if you continue to just keep doing this, your TikTok screen. So, yeah, the social media thing, it is, and I don't want to get on the soapbox of the social media thing, but I've heard, because I have kids, that social media and just these devices are addicting. Like clinically, they can measure the effect on the lobes of the brain. But what I never heard, and what doesn't seem to be front and center for obvious reasons, is creator addiction is worse. Because there's some times where I would get comments that were so nice, and I think maybe there's some kind of something in the program that will maybe delete negative comments or things that have I don't know. It just seems like the comments I get are overwhelmingly nice, to the point where I get so uncomfortable reading them. I have to like stop, because there's a part of me that's like, you're not even worthy of that. And it's just like, if you kept reading it, it's sort of like, I almost felt like I'm like, yeah, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't doing that, but I was just like, there's a point where your brain just goes, in a way, there's a part of you that wants people to know the truth, to know, and that's what I'm gonna start doing. If I do a mistake with one of the lifts, I've learned now to make a note of that mistake, because I'm going to make a little mistake video so people can see what can go wrong with these lifts, and they can also see that I am just like them. I'm the one that's bringing this to them, and I'm still screwing it up. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm doing this social media thing kind of by accident, but I'm trying to get people to, and myself included, to balance their involvement with this with their families.
Yep.
I'm really 100%. Big on the family thing. Yeah, the family thing. And when I say family, I kind of realized, there's a lot of people out there that might not literally have blood relative family. So what I mean by family is your group, your crew, whoever that is, it doesn't, your family is not necessarily, in fact, sometimes your blood relatives are the worst. You need to like get away from them and get a different family going. So yeah, but that's what I mean by family. It's just spending good quality time. I'm looking at the world that my daughters are entering, when my older daughter, she's 17, I asked her, well, I told her one day that I hope we were walking just down the street, and I said, this was just a few years ago, like 4 years. We have these little patches of strips of grass that people plant in the neighborhood. They're just on the sidewalks, and the city used to take care of them. And I told her, I hope that never gets replaced with artificial grass. Mm. And now when I go to playgrounds in Hawaii, I see artificial grass on the playgrounds. Some neighborhoods now I see this artificial, this what we called in our generation astroturf.
AstroTurf.
I don't know if they still call it that.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay. Yeah, because that's an old word, so I'm surprised they still use that. Cool. And yeah, my thing is everything going forward, especially for even your age, it is going to be so, even now, it is very difficult to discern what is real, not just in your world, in the physical world, like what in your food is real. You know, like I heard in China, you can even buy rice that's made of plastic. And yeah, and then you go online and you don't know if the information you're getting is real. And then you get Instagram photos that have been photoshopped through 8 different software programs. That's why I don't really put a lot of stills on my, because I'm super into being real. I do one modification to my videos on TikTok. I swipe to the left, and that puts my video into what's called original mode, which just kind of makes it brighter, but it doesn't put stuff that's not there. It doesn't hide my wrinkles or my whatevers. Because I'm really, for me, I am absolutely against that at my age and everything. What is there to hide, really? So that's why I don't like stills, because stills, you know, I can put some muscle. People say, hey man, can you put up a really good muscle shot on a still? I don't really see the point, because my thing is, if you like something on a video, you can just like kind of stop it and screenshot it and get exactly what you want. But I'm not really big on pictures, and I assume that oftentimes if there's a picture that's too perfect, and like everyone else, it's probably been modified, which is fine for other people. In fact, I tend to enjoy other people's modified photos, especially if they're hot. But aside from that, I don't do it myself. Yeah. So yeah, it's.
Brother, I got 3 questions, and I'm super excited to hear your answers, because you've definitely got some stories to tell. So first one, right, is what's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
The greatest piece of life advice I've ever received. You know, it probably, gosh, I've received a few. Here's the one that I've been, you know, it changes according to my, I guess, my age and where I am in life. But the one that it didn't really seem that deep to me at the time. I think I was younger when I heard this, but I guess these things, they get stored somewhere and they come out when they're needed, because for the last few years, I guess 10 years ago, I got the cancer, and that was when I actually realized I was mortal. Now that sounds crazy, because everyone knows that they die, but nothing physically bad ever happened to me prior to that I couldn't just easily overcome within a week or less. That cancer, and then my mom passed away shortly after that, and then many aunties. They had a few financial downfalls, just bad investments. Things were just kind of, I was losing things left and right. I was losing my self-concept, losing family members, losing money. Just my dogs died, all in this short period of time. And it was just busting me up. I was just like, God, it started with the cancer, and it just seemed like I was on this permanent, But anyway, that piece of advice, going back to that, would be measure your wealth in how little you need.
Ooh,
and
geez, that's good.
Yeah. And I think there's another version of that. I don't know if it's based on Stoicism or whatever, but that has always resonated, because it's clear to me as I get. There was also a bumper sticker I saw. Getting old is not for wimps. And in a way, I kind of saw a parallel between those two, because I was realizing, damn, and somebody else said at age 50, you're going to start losing shit. And I didn't know what he meant by lose. I thought, what, losing muscle or what? You lose that too. But yeah, basically just one. And I didn't really have a lot of tragedy up until my cancer. My life up until age 43 was almost a fairy tale of just being fortunate. I never won the lottery, but nothing terrible happened to me, and my life was, the sum of my life was pretty good. But since then, now that I'm kind of into my 50s now, and more people die, I've had classmates that I've lost. Now I'm at that age where my classmates they're starting to go as well. So the only thing that I have going forward is that philosophy, that mentality. And I do it with my diet. People ask, well, how do you stay ripped at your age? And how I retain muscle, and I don't know. And we haven't just real. If that's one of your next questions, but there's a lot of people that have wondered about the steroids. We had a short discussion prior to going live with this, but I have never ever used steroids, for any of you guys wondering. Growth hormone, TRT, any derivatives of any of those, even testosterone boosters that are legal, I just don't have that interest in them. But going back to, as I go forward in life, I don't suspect I'm going to be gaining more muscle, and certain things I'm going to just start diminishing. That's just the nature of our progression through life. And if before, every time this happened, I would look at it as a loss, God, now this, and then something else would come out of me. All right, you know what the fuck? It gets to a point where well, shit, why don't you just me next? I mean, you just fall into this hole of just being frustrated and pissed and sad, and or always grieving, but yeah, I forget, it was Epictetus. He's the Stoic guys. Anyway, that has helped me tremendously, and it also helps me with other things like not buying crap that I don't need. I mean, just basic, not eating that. Well, last night, my wife and I went to the store to get ice cream at 10 o'clock at night. And we're going to have ice cream with my older daughter at 11 o'clock. My wife was even toasting almonds on the stove. And then I realized, man, this sounds a little gross, but I had a big dinner and that ice cream was sounding good until I burped. And then this is gross, but you know how you can tell your stomach, you still got a stomach full of food. You're like, yeah. Oh shit. No. So I actually said, I turned down the ice cream. I was a little bit of a buzzkill for my wife and my daughter, but I said, you know what, tonight, I don't want to wake up sick to my stomach tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And what little fun I have with you guys tonight will not be worth it. I didn't want ice cream and dairy stuff rolling around in me right before bed. So, and I felt good with that. I was like, all right, yeah. So that philosophy has been helpful.
Mm. It's a great piece of life advice.
Thanks. Yeah, it's worked well for me, and I expect it to work more in the future.
Yeah.
Because there's not much else I can cling to beyond that. So, but yeah, and it's also uplifting. It sounds like a downer, but it's not. It's kind of fun. You know those guys, there's people that'll cross the Atlantic in their super yacht with GPS and all this high-tech carbon fiber stuff we don't even know. And then there's a guy that wants to hand build a boat from lumber he got from his yard. And he wants to row across the Atlantic with minimal stuff. And he gets the greatest satisfaction. Every meter he moves in this thing that shouldn't be, that's what feeds him. And that's what I feel this philosophy does for me. It's the more I can choose to not need, it's empowering in a different way. You feel free in a way. And that's what I think is the hidden power of that philosophy. It's just, it sounds like get used to not getting a lot of, or get used to losing all your shit. That's what it sounds like at face value. Just get used to it and suck it up. But no, it's much more than that. You actually find like, man, like even with my workouts, what's the least I need to work out to maintain, if not improve? Like ring push-ups, I am bad at those. People go like, whoa, look at your ring push-up. Holy shit, you see all your muscles. That's all you're seeing, because that one push-up is all I can do. There are not dozens and dozens and dozens of those. Literally, that one push-up, there's not a push-up before that nor after that. That one thing is an all-out max rep for me. And maybe 6 attempts at that, that'll be my workout. I'll be done in about 20 minutes or less. And people go, how is it possible that you can stay developed or even get anything from that? And I've always felt like people don't need as much training as they think they need if they want to adapt. But I think people more try to train they have basically insecurities on the inside, like I used to. And in order to kind of, I guess, maybe shore themselves up, they have to do the warrior workout at the gym. So my personal life and my career might suck dick, but I can beat the hell out of a kettlebell for 30 minutes and I'm a badass. And and I was hiding behind I was hiding behind my workouts, as I used to call it. And it got to the point where if my workout sucked, then the rest of the day sucked, and woe be to anyone around me, like my wife and my kids. It was pretty superficial, but that's where I was coming from a while ago. It was just, I had so little that I felt was of value in my life that I was doing, that my workout became the
I can understand that.
And I was overdoing it. Yeah, I was constantly just busted up. And I knew deep inside the way I was training, I couldn't possibly recover enough to make progress forward. Started plateauing on all the weights. Everything started feeling heavier and it was lighter. So that's when I really pulled back. And I have literally learned, kind of by accident and otherwise, that the amount of training that at least I need is a fraction of what I thought I needed and I'm actually have progressed my strength and my abilities over the last 2 years, training 10 to 15 minutes. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's good. Anyway, so that was a kind of a long-winded answer to your first question.
Nah, man, I appreciate it, man. I honestly really appreciate it. The follow-on, or the next question is a follow-on. It's like, what is the worst piece of life advice you've ever received?
The worst? Ooh, that's a good one. Well, it's kind of funny when you ask me what is the best piece of advice. For some strange reason, be yourself flashed through my head, but I instantly knocked that down, and that might actually be one of the worst pieces of advice that you could give to yourself, because it's relative to the version of yourself that you're in at the time.
Yeah, I understand.
And right. So when I was kind of this frustrated, insecure dick, and I was myself, and I'd go through the world like back then when I was much younger, like in my 20s, even into my 30s, I was one of those guys that would, like, if I'm walking down the aisle in the market, there's another kind of big guy coming my way, and we both start puffing up. So you're like, bro, I'm not gonna, you know what? I'll get into that with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was who I was at the time. And that's because for a long time I started reading these books, these self-help books. I started reading that in my 20s, around the time I realized I was not the kind of person I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
I at least knew that, but I didn't know what I wanted to be, nor how to become that. So I was like, oh, shit. And then literally, I don't know if it's Tony Robbins or who all, but they basically said, if you're kind of at a point where people currently don't like you, then being yourself, I'm sure as you found, is not helping you out. And then they talked about modeling, which was, I guess, that's the self-help term for copying that which you felt was good. And so I literally started acting like a nicer person. It became kind of like I literally would, like the way my mom told me to act around my aunties, that's how I would treat strangers.
Beautiful.
Even to the point where I was one of those weird guys that if you looked at me in the eye, if you happen to catch my eye in the mall, I would literally say hi to you. I realized that was a little too much, but I got good results from that. I liked the results that I got from that. And yeah, so I can't really think of anything that was not like that's the worst advice, because if you're a nice person, then being yourself is relatively a good thing to be. But I can't really say I got a lot of terribly bad advice from people, but the one that be yourself one, that kind of was for me, it wasn't the best thing. And if there's somebody listening and they were just told by their mentor or their someone they look up to be themselves, and don't listen to me, I'm just saying this is relative to the asshole who I was at the time. I was told to be myself. If you're kind of cool and you like where you're going, please be yourself. Yeah. So
yeah, it's just your perspective on things, right? Like there's no right or wrong answer. It's all individualized. Like,
yeah, that's
100%.
why it's kind of hard to answer a lot of questions, because there's so many variables. Yeah, but yeah, in general, if I think of something better before we're done, I'll let you know. But that was a piece of advice that at the time was not the most helpful to me.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right. Third and final question, and then I'm going to have to shoot. I got a meeting to try and make, but that's okay. Number 3.
Wow, I didn't realize. Oh, I must have been having fun. Okay. Yeah. All right.
3 words you would tell your younger self.
Words I would tell my younger self. That would probably be shit. I grew up most of my life. I don't think I mentioned this. This is kind of the reason why I wanted to become a soldier at a young age, was I think because I didn't feel safe. And because when I was a little kid, I kind of had ADD or whatever, ADHD, and I was always getting in trouble, just acting up and spazzing out, running all over the place. And I learned from a young age back in, this is the 70s, so they didn't have all this child, psychology stuff. So literally teachers and relatives, even parents, would label kids. I was known as Bad Billy amongst my teachers, and I was called that. And nowadays I don't think you can do that. But back then I was labeled. I was sent to sit outside in the class. At a birthday party, I'd have to sit in the room until I calmed down. I'd get my ass beat, and then I'd have to sit down in the room and be quiet. So I think I learned, I didn't realize at the time, but I learned that the world was erratic. Like you could be at a party 1 minute, and I didn't connect that my behavior. But anyway, I'd get my ass beat because I'd start wanting to blow out the candles at a party that wasn't mine. And I'd throw a tantrum if I couldn't. So of course my mom would have to beat my ass and put me in the room. But I learned that I was a bad kid, and then I became kind of hostile in my teenage years. Then I learned about nuclear war at the age of 14 or 15. And when I heard of that and I started studying that, I was convinced, without a shadow of doubt, that we were all going to die in a nuclear war, some conflagration of, yeah, I was convinced. And so my thing was, I was a very early prepper. I was like, okay, I got to get ready for this Armageddon thing. And the best way at my age, even though I can't be a ranger or a SEAL, if I'm at least in the physical condition to be a SEAL or a ranger, when this happens, I can possibly protect my family or whatever. And this was a very real fear. I mean, I should have seen mental health counselors for this, but I always would imagine scenarios in the future that were just doomsday. Like even now, I worry about the what is it, freaking supercomputers or AI and all the shit we're supposed to worry about now, you know, taking over the world, and algorithms and mind control and all this stuff, you know. So, but I don't worry about that stuff the way I used to. So I guess what I wouldn't say, I guess what I'd have to say is, it sounds lame, but you hear a lot of older people say that most of what they worried about, they wish they didn't, because it just turned out to be for naught. It either didn't come close to happening, or it wasn't as bad as they thought it would be. I guess I would have to tell that younger version. Oh, it'd be hard for that younger version to understand, though, what I'd tell them. But that, I guess the sum of it, this is hard. Let me try and give you a different example of what I'm trying to say. The things that I think were bad, that I would fear, or I would hate or dislike, they all turned out in some way to help me and to be good. So I guess this has something to do with trust. Basically trust, even during what you perceive as a bad thing. Here's what I'm trying to say. Life is a process. This is what I tell my daughters all the time. So if you're asking me what I would tell my younger self, it's what I tell my young daughters now. Whenever something goes hard, like end of the world disasters, you know, when you have a teenager, you have those at least 3 to 4 times a week, and it's absolute end of the world, doomsday. I always tell my daughter, no matter what, if she screwed up, she got a bad grade, or her business that she runs had a bad comment, or something destroyed a batch of her cupcakes and had to throw it all, and that's it. That's the end of the world. Just like when I was her age, one thing went wrong, can't find my shoe, okay, I want to kill myself. What I tell her is, life is a process. Just because you perceive something as bad at the moment it occurs in and of itself, unless that thing has killed you shortly thereafter, relax. You don't have to like the initial what you see, but please have faith. And going forward, there's usually a pretty good reason for that thing happening. And in my experience, that reason has something to do with a benefit to you. But you just have to hang out and not freak about everything, even if it's a big thing. Like the old version of me, when I heard about AI and all these things and people losing their jobs in droves, and I thought, like, right now, this time currently, a year ago, I thought half the world would be unemployed, starving, rioting, and ready to go to war just to get food from the other countries. That's where my brain will go sometimes. But I've learned that, number one, my brain probably saw too many movies when I was younger. And even if that was on the horizon, chill. As horrible as that looks, relax. Like right now, coronavirus, probably from coronavirus, as many people sacrificed and died for this thing. What if a year from now, we don't need flu shots anymore because the technology they use to create the coronavirus actually helps us in cancer research or with the flu. So, okay, we still have coronavirus, you gotta get a coronavirus shot, but the technology now, you don't need a flu shot. That's hypothetical, but I have found more often than not that things I thought were really horrible. Let me tell you one more story that's relevant to this morning, and then I'll let you go. I hope I'm not keeping you too. Real quick, I went to go and get my car. I parked my car in the street because my garage is filled with crap. So I knew that I parked, when I leave my yard, I knew I parked my car on the right. What do I find myself doing? Walking almost to the corner, making a left. Even though I clearly knew my car was, so literally I'm like, you are such a dumb motherfucker. How is it that you know why are you walking to the left? I turn around to go back to where my car is. Both my dogs are standing on the sidewalk. It's dark on the street. Both of my dogs, and they're puppies. They don't know to stay in the yard. They would have just walked right out onto the street. One would have gone here, one would have gone there, one would have got run over. So the moment I turned around, I'm like, oh shit. And I had to just calmly say, come on, you guys, because my neighbor had left, it wasn't her fault. We close off the common area with a fence and she's allowed to open it, but I guess she forgot to close it. And I didn't check, it's my fault. So if I had not, for some strange reason, if I had just went off to the right and walked, and my car was a distance away, my dogs would have been running around the neighborhood in the dark for at least a few minutes before I rolled around and picked them up. And that most likely would not have turned out well, because in a few minutes, they're puppies, they would have gone, who knows? So that was a case in point right there in a very compressed time interval of how something that you're like, how could you do something so stupid? I mean, literally stupid. Well, there's things outside of my logic that I guess are functioning that, yeah. That's why I've learned to not be so arrogant as to think, because in a way, by getting all upset in a form, it's a way of saying, I know the future and this is it. And I don't like this. And to me, it's not one's place to get upset. I mean, you can hit it, but to stay upset is kind of a waste. Because literally, unless that thing has killed you, chances are, if you take the sum of all the crappy things that happened to you in your life up until now, if you like the sum total of what your life is, well then, I don't see a reason why that shouldn't change going forward. And maybe the only thing that might really knock you off of that loop is dying. So like I said, unless that happens, most likely you're gonna be okay. And that's what I would tell any young person. Don't look at shit as shit. Just hang out. If you're not dead, be happy you're not dead and wait to see what happens. Let the process play itself out. And
Beautiful.
That'll save you tons of grief, and it'll save you lots of wasted time and effort. And yeah, so anyway,
Awesome.
I'll leave you with that.
Brother, thank you so much. I'm gonna have to shoot, but I really appreciate your time, and I'm 100% gonna be hitting you up whenever I get over to Hawaii, and it's gonna happen.
All right, cool, man.
We'll grab a coffee, we'll grab a workout, we'll do this all again.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll still be here.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Alex. Hey, if you're gonna publish this or whatever, can you send me the link?
Of course. Of course. And I guess I have to say aloha.
Aloha. Hey, do you guys say anything in New Zealand? Do you have anything like that, like Maori or anything?
Well, we say kia ora, which is a welcome, but
okay.
I still need to learn te reo. I'm learning sign language, so I know a little bit of New Zealand sign language, but I need to learn te reo, which will be another thing to tick off.
And that is that's the language of the Maori people.
Yep.
Wow.
That's the one.
Cool. Hey, one last question. Is Israel Adesanya in your area? Does he come from like where you are in New Zealand or?
No idea, brother.
Oh, okay. Do you know who he is? You know who Israel is.
MMA fighter?
Yeah, I think he's the middleweight
Yeah.
champ right now. I was just curious. He's a badass, so I was just wondering if he's from your area, but no worries.
If I bump into him or
Alex,
have a conversation, I'll let you know.
Please tell him I said hi.
I will do. Thank you, brother.
All right, Alex.
Speak soon.
Hey, thank you, and we'll talk somewhere down the line.
Yes, sir.
All right. Aloha. Bye-bye.
Aloha.